The stunning city of Ghent is the third largest city in Belgium, and possibly the most beautiful. Before I tell you about America's particular connection with Ghent, let me first give you a quick tour of some of the city's highlights. Ghent is a port city, and for a while, it was one of the most important trading centers in Europe. Because of its early wealth, Ghent was able to pour lots of money into constructing miles of canals, graceful arch bridges, incredibly ornate buildings, and richly decked out churches. The skyline is dominated by towers and steeples. The tallest is a bell tower that has withstood wars, plagues, and weather for almost 1,000 years. Soaring upwards almost 300 feet, it's the tallest bell tower in Belgium. The large building next to the tower was home base for the all-important cloth trade during the Middle Ages. But then, Ghent and its cloth trade began to decline. It took an 18th century hacker to restore Ghent's prosperity. His name was Levin Bawens. When he was a boy, he had been sent to live in England and to learn their secrets for making textiles. He did exactly that, sneaking machine drawings out of England. Back home in Ghent, Levin set up the continent's first mechanical weaving machines. This is video of a later version of the machine he built. But it gives you an idea of just how complicated these machines were. Operated by a steam engine, they were able to make thread faster, stronger, and less expensively than thread made by hand. And it helped to catapult Ghent and Belgium to the top of the textile trade. A popular pastime is to sit outside a cafe and take in the surroundings. This is one of the city's oldest family-run businesses. They make one of the specialties of Ghent, mustard.
Yeah, so this is our big barrel full of mustard, and it's the mustard that we make here in the basement of the building. So it's a really dark, it's a really spicy mustard. And as you can see, I've got a little pump here, and I can pump it straight from the barrel where we make it downstairs, here in the barrel upstairs. And then we fill all the jars by hand. So usually we take a jar like this, and then we fill all the jars by hand. And we've been doing that for more than 200 years now.
This cart is filled with a colorful local candy called Kuberdon. Inside the hard outer shell is gooey filling, originally raspberry, but now there are many flavor options. Ghent also has a castle, but there's so much to show and tell about the castle that we're going to do that in an upcoming episode. And that leaves us where we started, with the story of America's connection to Ghent. The story starts with the War of 1812. The young United States had been battling the British for more than 2 years, and things weren't going well for the Americans. Not only was Washington, D.C. set on fire, the president's home, the Executive Mansion, was torched. Here's a piece of historic trivia. When repairs were finally made to cover the dark burn marks, the building was repainted in fresh white paint. And that's why today we call it the White House. Back to our story. It was in this building that American and British negotiators hammered out an agreement to end the war. Led by soon-to-be President John Quincy Adams, the negotiations had dragged on for 4 months. Finally, on Christmas Eve, 1814, the Treaty of Ghent was signed. But because word of the treaty had to travel across the Atlantic Ocean, it took 7 weeks before anyone in America learned of it. It's one of history's ironies that the Battle of New Orleans was fought 2 weeks after the agreement was reached. That battle was one of the most lopsided and quickest victories in American history. Though outnumbered by the British, the Americans, led by Andrew Jackson, won in just 30 minutes. The British had 2,000 casualties, including the death of their commanding general. The Americans suffered only 71 casualties. Of course, if they had cell phones back then, the Battle of New Orleans would never have happened. Just goes to show how important good communication is. With a bit of Belgium, I'm Emily for Teen Kids News.